Good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Plamondon. I'm the Executive Director of Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association. Our association represents 5 municipalities, the City of Edmonton, the City of Fort Saskatchewan, Strathcona, Sturgeon, and Lamont counties. And we're very pleased today to be here at Shell Scotford, and I want to express my appreciation to the team at Shell and at the Scotford site for hosting us. We know that hosting us is in addition to all of your regular duties, so appreciate you taking the time out of your day to host us. Behind me I have our chair, Reeve Dave Duduque. He's the Reeve of Lamont County, as well as Councillor Parks. He's a councillor with Strathcona County. And we're very pleased here to be having a discussion with the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, having a conversation around the competitive advantages here in Alberta in the industrial heartland and how federal supports for large-scale decarbonization projects like carbon capture and storage are a key component of being able to advance investment in this part of the world, in particular here in Alberta. You know, we travel the world talking to companies around advancing large-scale projects, and companies look at a variety of jurisdictions and they compare Alberta's industrial heartland to other jurisdictions. And so being able to demonstrate support at all levels of government and being able to demonstrate competitiveness, and a lot of that stems from government supports such as investment tax credits, that's a key component to advancing projects in this region. So we're absolutely thrilled to be able to welcome Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland. With that, I would like to introduce the Honourable Chrystia Freeland, and thank you very much for your time here today.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mark. I'm going to give you a hug,
Okay,
actually.
thank you so much for coming.
You don't need the step, but I do.
Oh, wow. OK. Bonjour. Je tiens d'abord à souligner que nous sommes réunis sur le territoire du traité numéro 6 et dans le district 11 de la nation Métis de l'Alberta. I do also want to take a moment to express our government's support and my personal support and heartache about the wildfires that have devastated Jasper and other parts of Alberta this summer. I know that Jasper really is one of Alberta's crown jewels, one of Canada's crown jewels. So many of us have very special memories of moments in our lives in Jasper and camping and hiking around there. And it's touched so many people. I want to especially thank the first responders who are working so hard, who put their lives on the line to keep their neighbors safe. I'd like us all to acknowledge Morgan Kitchen, the young firefighter who lost his life while battling the wildfires in Jasper. He served Albertans and Canadians with tremendous bravery. His loss is deeply felt, and our hearts go out to his friends and family. Okay, well, I am here today in Alberta's industrial heartland at the Scotford complex to celebrate the new Polaris carbon capture, and I think we can see just over there it's being built, and the Alta carbon storage project hubs. I'd like to thank Mark Plamondon, who introduced me. I'd like to thank Reeve Dave Duduque from Alberta's Industrial Heartland Association, as well as Councillor Robert Parks of Strathcona County for being here with me today. Most of all, though, I really want to start with a shout out to some of the people who are standing behind the cameras. The amazing people here who are doing the work, building this cutting edge, best in the world project. I met when we were touring Polaris and seeing what is being built there. I met Kathy. She's a young chemical engineer. And I met Scott. He works with her. He started out, he's a little bit older. He started out as an operator and is now one of the leaders of this project. And Kathy said something that I thought was really true and very touching, that she is so proud to be working on a project which is leading the whole world. And that's true. She should be proud. I am proud of her. I'm proud of everyone here who is working on this. You guys are really at the cutting edge internationally. One of the people giving me the tour said, here, we're not just talking about carbon capture, we are doing it. You have been doing it for 10 years. You are taking the next step now. This is tremendously important for Alberta and for Canada. I have met a lot of people here who know that, who are proud of the work they do every day. And I just want to start by saying, we are all proud of you. We are grateful to you. And our country really needs to celebrate the work being done here. So, Shell Scotford is one of North America's most efficient and modern hydrocarbon processing sites. It supports thousands of good jobs in oil and gas and petrochemicals. It also contributes to reducing Canada's emissions. The new Polaris project will capture approximately 650,000 tons of carbon dioxide, and the locally elected officials and I talked about how we need to be translating that into the equivalent of the number of cars it takes off the road. This is a really big deal. It will capture those 650,000 tons of carbon dioxide annually from the Shell Scotford refinery and chemicals complex. And the Atlas project, which is a partnership between Shell and ATCO EnPower, will permanently store this captured carbon underground. And I want to emphasize something here, which is we are incredibly lucky here in Alberta with our geological formations. We are fortunate to have probably the world's best geological formations when it comes to storing captured carbon. That is a competitive advantage, which is hugely beneficial to Alberta. It is hugely beneficial to Canada, and it's important for us to celebrate and recognize that too. Operations for both projects are expected to begin towards the end of 2028. They're already building them now. Together, they will create up to 2,000 jobs and help Canada, our country, meet its net zero targets. I am really proud that these projects have been made possible financially by our government's carbon capture, utilization, and storage investment tax credit. That credit received royal assent in June, and it helps companies like Shell lower their emissions by offsetting the cost of implementing CCUS technology. This makes their products more competitive in global markets because our most important trading partners, including the US and the EU, are taking serious climate action. Those tax credits are the foundation for the amazing work the people here at Shell are doing, the great jobs that we see right now building this historic project. Shell knows how important this is because they have been a leader in this space for a decade. The Quest carbon capture and storage facility has been safely capturing and storing carbon since 2015. And Scott and Kathy, who I told you about, Scott was one of the guys who got Quest off the ground. He's excited to be building Polaris. Kathy worked on Quest, and now she's building Polaris. Notre série de crédit d'impôt à l'investissement de 93 millions de dollars est une pierre angulaire du plan économique de notre gouvernement. Our investment tax credits are already working to give businesses like Shell the certainty and the support they need to make historic investments in Canada that create great jobs while reducing our emissions at the same time. We're also supporting Canadian workers and good paying jobs in Canada. by linking many of our investment tax credits to labor requirements. That gives businesses and employers an added incentive to pay a prevailing union wage and to create apprenticeship opportunities. And we have the evidence to prove it. In this last year alone, Canada has welcomed investments by other major companies like Strathcona Resources, another CCUS project, Honda, and not too far from here, Dow. All of these projects will support thousands and thousands of good-paying jobs across Canada. Plus tôt cette année, 4 de nos 6 crédits d'impôt à l'investissement ont été inscrits dans la loi. Cela donne plus de certitude aux entreprises qui investissent pour créer des emplois bien payés et cela attirera encore plus d'investissements au Canada. Yesterday, we had some really positive economic news that further supports investment in Canada, that further supports the Canadian economy. Inflation in Canada in July fell to a 40-month low of 2.5%. That is down from 2.7% in June. Inflation has now been within the Bank of Canada's target range for 7 months in a row, and wages have outpaced inflation for the past 18 months. Le Canada a été le premier pays du G7 à réduire les taux d'intérêt et le premier pays du G7 à le faire une deuxième fois. La diminution de l'inflation, la diminution des taux d'intérêt et l'annonce d'aujourd'hui sont tous les éléments de preuve que l'économie canadienne est forte et résiliente. Falling inflation, falling interest rates, big investment announcements like the project we're highlighting today. These are all proof points that our government's economic plan, our government's fiscally responsible economic plan is delivering for hardworking Albertans, for hardworking Canadians. We're creating jobs for today and jobs for tomorrow. Now is the time to make major investments in Canada, in Alberta, to get big projects built, like the amazing project that the people who are here with us are building right now. So let me just say thanks again for your work. I would love to see that 200-foot tower hauled here. You're doing something remarkable. You're doing something historic. I'm grateful to you. I'm proud of you. And I'm happy to answer your questions.
Une question en suivi pour les journalistes intéressés. Et il y a un micro juste là. Yeah, one question, one follow-up. Get your name in.
Michelle Bellefontaine, CBC. What is your department expecting or forecasting in terms of the economic impact of a complete rail stoppage? And what kind of contingency plans are underway?
Thank you for the question. And let me just start by saying Canada is a trading nation. We make a lot of great things that we sell to the world, and we should be proud of that. And our railways are an essential way that we get our goods to market. Canada and the Canadian economy have been through some really tough times since COVID first hit. We had lockdowns, then we had shortages, then we had high inflation, then we had high interest rates. We are now truly starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, with inflation back within the Bank of Canada's target range for 7 months, and interest rates having come down twice. It is entirely unacceptable for anyone to get in the way of that economic progress that we have all been making and that has been so hard fought and so hard won. So I want to take the opportunity that your question presents to say to the parties, to say to the companies, to say to the union, we are expecting you to work really, really hard, to negotiate in good faith, to negotiate with real energy and intensity, and to get a deal done. Your customers expect that. Your customers' employees expect that. The farmers who I saw on my way here swathing, they expect that. The people who work here, they expect that. Canada and Canadians expect that. So we know the best deals are reached at the negotiating table. We are expecting the parties to roll up their sleeves and get a deal done ASAP.
As my follow-up, though, I mean, how patient can the government afford to be with these negotiations given the economic consequences? And I'm wondering if you can tell us what kind of contingency plans the government has.
Our plan is for the parties to listen to Canadians, listen to their neighbors, listen to their friends, to recognize that it is totally unacceptable for us as a country to sabotage ourselves right now. We have been through a lot. We have made so much progress with our economy, and Canadians from coast to coast to coast are depending on the employers, are depending on the union to get a deal done and to get it done with alacrity.
Emmanuel Prestovet, Radio-Canada. Relativement à la même question. Compte tenu des impacts économiques que pourrait avoir une grève des travailleurs ferroviaires, avez-vous déjà un plan pour aider financièrement les secteurs économiques qui pourraient être touchés?
Merci pour la question. Le Canada est une économie exporteur. Nous sommes une économie, nous sommes un pays qui produit beaucoup et qui exporte beaucoup. Nous devons être fiers de cela. C'est une puissance de notre pays. Les Canadiens et Canadiennes, l'économie canadienne a eu des moments, des périodes, des années difficiles. On a eu le COVID, on a eu après cela l'inflation, on a eu le taux directeur élevé. Tout cela était très, très difficile pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes. Mais maintenant, on voit que l'économie canadienne est résiliente et on voit maintenant que l'inflation était dans la fourchette cible du Banque du Canada pour 7 mois. On voit que le taux directeur s'est diminué pour 2 fois. Ce sont des bons pas. Et c'est complètement inacceptable aujourd'hui qu'on va dans la bonne direction économique. C'est complètement inacceptable d'avoir une grève qui pourra être très, très difficile pour les Canadiens et Canadiennes, pour toute notre économie. Et pour cette raison, pour moi, la priorité, c'est de dire aux entreprises, aux compagnies, aux syndicats que vous devez travailler très, très fort, très, très vite, et nous avons, tout le pays a besoin d'un accord.
Puis dans les derniers mois, il y a eu de nombreuses grèves, de nombreux conflits de travail dans le secteur des transports au Canada. Il y a eu le port de Vancouver, il y a eu les mécaniciens de WestJet, là il y a le rail de fret. Dans quelques mois, peut-être les pilotes d'Air Canada. Comment vous expliquez tous ces conflits de travail ou ces menaces de conflits de travail dans un secteur réglementé par le fédéral, le secteur des transports national?
Notre gouvernement est un gouvernement qui comprend l'importance des syndicats, l'importance du mouvement syndical Quand j'ai parlé des crédits d'impôt, j'ai souligné que pour nous, c'était très important en donnant ces crédits d'impôt d'avoir un lien entre les crédits d'impôt et les salaires que les travailleurs et les travailleurs ont. Pour nous, quand on parle de croissance économique, la priorité, c'est d'avoir des bons travails, des bons travails qui sont bien payés. Et nous comprenons l'importance des syndicats en avoir cela. Mais dans le moment où on se trouve, les conséquences économiques d'une grève seront vraiment, vraiment sérieuses pour tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes, pour tous les travailleurs et travailleuses partout au pays. Et c'est pour cette raison que j'ai dit que maintenant, les compagnies, le syndicat, ils ont une très, très sérieuse responsabilité face aux Canadiens et Canadiennes. Ils doivent travailler très, très fort et trouver un accord, conclure un accord très vite.
Next question. Prochaine question.
Thank you so much for taking our questions. Aaron Sousa with the Canadian Press. As my colleagues
Can you say your name again? It's hard to hear.
This is not a problem. Aaron Sousa, Canadian Press. So as my colleagues have pointed out, the clock is starting to tick with the potential work stoppage with the rail lines. And as you've already pointed out, it's expected to have a big impact on Canadians. The federal government has stepped in these cases before. I'm wondering, what will it take before the federal government considers legislating an end to this stoppage?
So let me just say this. My colleague, Steve McKinnon, the Minister of Labour, is very seized of this issue, as is the whole government. He has been working very, very hard on it, talking to the employers, talking to the union. He's been in Montreal. Today he's in Calgary, and he's going to be meeting with the Premier this afternoon. We take this situation incredibly seriously. We know that the best deals are reached at the bargaining table, and I am calling with extreme seriousness on the employers and on the union to roll up their sleeves to get a deal done. And it's not just me who's counting on them. Every single Canadian is counting on them. Their customers are counting on them. Their customers' employees are counting on them. The hardworking farmers in the fields around us, they are counting on them. The people at Shell are counting on them. So I want them to recognize the country has no patience with dilly-dallying right now. They can achieve a deal. They need to get a deal done. They need to take their responsibility seriously.
Yes, as my follow-up to that, what would you say then to the small businesses, the Canadians, companies in general, who are going to be impacted by struggles with backlogs with this kind of work stoppage?
I would say, let's as a country be united in sending a very clear message to the companies and to the union. It is not acceptable for us to do this act of self-harm to the Canadian economy. You have the responsibility to get a deal done. We are expecting you to rise to that responsibility and get a deal done.
Thank you.
All right, we'll have time for one more question. Une dernière question.
Good morning, Minister. Charles Taylor with Global Edmonton. Minister, with this potential rail stoppage looming, and just recently we saw port strikes cost the economy billions of dollars, how can you tell international trading partners Canada is a reliable place for business when labor disputes keep disrupting the flow of goods?
Canada is an extremely reliable place for business. Canada is an outstanding investment destination. And look, it's my job to say that, and I say it with utter belief and confidence. But guess what? Investors agree with me, and they are coming, and they are talking with their checks. This Polaris project is a huge investment on the part of Shell. Not too far from here, Dow has made a historic investment, their biggest investment ever in North America. We've had major investments from Honda, major investments from VW. This is a moment actually when the world is recognizing the Canadian advantage, whether that advantage is in our geological formations or our incredibly smart, innovative, hard-working people. I agree with you though. Right now, Canada is really moving in the right direction economically. We've had inflation within the Bank of Canada's target range for 7 months. Interest rates have come down twice in a row. We have major foreign investment pouring into our country. And we simply cannot afford, we cannot tolerate a self-inflicted wound. And that's why I am saying, you know, with real seriousness to the companies and to the union, your country is counting on you. Your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, every single one of them needs you to do your job, take your responsibility seriously, and get a deal.
Follow-up, Minister. The Canadian Chemical Association says cities at best have only 2 weeks of chemicals to treat drinking water, which can only be transported by rail. Will your government commit to ending the labor dispute before there are issues with drinking water?
Again, Charles, thank you for the question. I take this situation extremely seriously. So does our whole government. Steve McKinnon, our labor minister, is working really 24/7 on this. We know the best deals are reached at the bargaining table, and we know whose responsibility it is to get a deal. It's the responsibility of the companies, it's the responsibility of the union. Your questions are important, and your questions are the questions every single person in Canada is asking. I want the employers, I want the unions to hear us. I want them to roll up their sleeves, to recognize Canadians need them to get this done, to reach a deal, so we can keep on moving forward.
All right, that concludes today's press conference. Tu mets fin à la conférence de presse. Merci tout le monde. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, and thanks to the great people here at Shell. Just to reiterate, I am so proud of your work. Je suis tellement fière de ce que vous faites chaque jour. Merci beaucoup.